Okay.
Gotcha.
So let's have you first start off, just introduce who you are and what you do.
Well, my name is Norman Black. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, in the United States. I arrived in the Philippines in 1981 as a player, straight from the Detroit Pistons summer camp. And in 1985, I became a player coach, continued as a player coach for a few more years, and eventually went into coaching without the playing. And I've been coaching ever since. So I've been a head coach in the PBA since 1985, or for 35 years.
And so well, I guess let's start there. What has kept you personally in the Philippines for 35 years to coach?
Well, first, I'm married to a Filipina.
Okay, same.
Gives me the right legally to live in the Philippines and work in the Philippines. I have all the rights of a Filipino except for I can't vote and I can't join the military, which I'm not going to join the military anyway. Um, but being married makes me a permanent resident here in the Philippines. So that's one of the main reasons why I'm still here. The fact that I could stay here legally. Number two, and the main reason probably is my wife is Filipina, so she prefers to stay in the Philippines. So that's another reason why I'm here. And then I guess number three would be the fact that I've been able to stay employed for the last 35 years here in the Philippines.
So you obviously you've coached with a lot of different teams in PBA, but I was going through the list just to familiarize myself a little bit more. And I didn't know you coached. You were at least assistant with Gilas Filipinas, right?
I've been the head coach of the Philippine national team twice,
Okay.
and I've been assistant coach four times.
Was
So I've actually
Ateneo on that list as well?
well, Ateneo is I spent 10 years in the amateurs. I coached in college for 9 years, and that would be my gap when I was not in the PBA.
Okay.
And I coached at Ateneo for 9 years, and uh, we had some good teams there. We had some very good teams actually at Ateneo when I coached in college.
And so now you are and your whole career now is coaching the Meralco Bulls, right? There's no other side coaching situation for you. Are you anywhere else? Do you double dip anyway?
No, there's really no time to double dip. Coaching in the PBA is a full-time job. It's a professional league, just like the NBA. So once you're employed to coach there, that's basically your job. They don't expect that you're going to have a side job. The times that I coached for the national team, the PBA was on hiatus. They did not have any games that particular time. The PBA normally stops the league whenever there's a national team tournament. So the times that I coached the national team, either as a head coach or an assistant coach, the PBA was not really active at that time.
Okay. And so, like I mentioned to you before, we hope Filipinos watch and enjoy kind of seeing you maybe in an interview and all that kind of stuff. But really, our main target is any specifically basketball player who has no idea about basketball in the Philippines. And you've had at least a little experience in the NBA when you were here, at least dip your toes in the water a little bit. But you've been in the Philippines now for so long with the PBA. What would be your quick explanation and pitch for the PBA for young athletes here?
Well, I've had a lot of experience here in the Philippines as far as the basketball scene is concerned. And obviously, there are a lot of Phil-Ams in the United States who are playing basketball in high school and in college. And they actually have an opportunity to continue their basketball career here in the Philippines if their papers are correct. In other words, if they are actually eligible to be able to play here, because you have to have your papers done. In other words, you have to be eligible as far as, was your mother a Filipina when you were born? Was your father a Filipino when you were born? Had they transferred their citizenship to American citizenship? So those are the things you have to take care of. But even if you can't make it to the NBA, which a lot of us can't, for all those Phil-Ams who are actually playing basketball in the States and are actually doing well in high school and college, there is an opportunity for you to play here in the Philippines.
What is that atmosphere? Or no, let's go specifically to Meralco here. Looking at Meralco, out of the three conferences, when we kind of picked apart the PBA with our guests for the last episode, we saw kind of a pattern with some of the teams that may be stronger during different conferences. What was the one, not that, Meralco can't win it all every time, but I've seen you guys in the finals of, I feel like one of them specifically every time, at least recently. Is that correct?
Yes, that would be the Governor's Cup. That would be the 6'5" and under league. We've been quite competitive in the Commissioner's Cup too with the unlimited heights, but our success has really come with Alan Dorham. And Alan Dorham has been our import for 4 times now. And 3 of those 4 times we made it to the championship. Even though we didn't win the championship, we made it there. And even in the 4th time, we made it to the semifinals of the Final Four. So if you were to rank the teams in the league, and there are 12 teams in the league, we would probably not be ranked in the upper half as far as our Filipino talent. In other words, if all Filipino conference is where we struggle. But what we normally try to do is to try to get an import who can take care of our weaknesses. In other words, our weaknesses are we don't really have the bigs. If you take a team like the Ginebra San Miguel team, they have a 7-footer who is one of the best players in the league, who I coached in college. They have a 6'9" player who is probably the best power forward in the league, and I coached him in college too. But you can see they have a lot of size. Their small forward is 6'7", whereas if you look at the Meralco team, our center is 6'5". So we're giving a lot away as far as size is concerned, and not just size, but also talent. So what I normally try to do is, because I am a former import and I've been recruiting imports over the years, I've had quite a few best import awardees here in the Philippines. What I normally try to do is just make sure I get to the States and scout and recruit an import that I think fits our needs. In other words, if we don't have the size, if we don't have the rebounding ability, then I'm not going to pick an import that shoots all 3-point shots. That's not the type of import I'm going to choose. I'm going to choose a guy who probably a little bit like me, is only 6'5", but can play inside, can rebound the basketball, can defend the paint. And we've had a lot of success with those guys, particularly Alan Dorham over the last few years with the Meralco team.
So, the future at least isn't released as to what you'll do for an import. Who knows? And that's not what I'm asking. But I do want to know, when you have an import repeatedly coming back and showing that they can perform over and over and over again, what is it like? Maybe you haven't had to do this yet, but to finally talk to them and say, you know what, I think we actually do need to go a different route this time. Again, not that it will happen now, but whenever it may happen, is that a time? I don't know, maybe you can help elaborate a little bit on that. I feel like it would be so difficult building a relationship with that one import you bring in over and over again and finally having to maybe turn that page at some point.
Yeah, that's correct. Sometimes you have to do that. The reason why we've actually brought AD back, or Alan Dorham back, a few times now is because, one, we've had a lot of success with them.
Yeah.
It's different when you're coming in 8th and 9th place and then you bring one guy in and all of a sudden you're one of the top 2 teams in the league. So he makes a big difference as far as our performance is concerned, and nobody's interested in coming in last place. Of course, you don't want to come in 2nd place either. Nobody's aiming for that. But at the same time, at least he gives you an opportunity to be able to be successful in that particular conference, excuse me. Now, to answer your question, yeah, that's a question my boss would also ask me. Why do you want to keep bringing back a guy that's coming in 2nd place? Why not get a guy that's going to take you to the championship and win the championship for you? So the other reason why we would bring AD back is that we're trying to improve our Filipino lineup as we go along. So hopefully if we bring him back, then we would have improved our Filipino lineup, which gives us a better chance of winning. In other words, okay, maybe he has a limit as far as where he can take us, but if we can improve our Filipino players and get better as a team, then that also gives us a better chance of utilizing his talents to be able to win a championship. Last conference, we lost to Ginebra San Miguel in the finals, again, for the 3rd straight time with AD. And we picked up a guy by the name of Raymond Almazan, who I would rank probably the 3rd best big man in the league. We picked him up in the middle of the year. We actually picked him up hurt, but he was able to recover, and he played in the 3rd conference for us. And he was the one who really made the big difference for us in that 3rd conference. He gave us the size we needed to match up with the other teams. The only problem is in game 3 of the championship series, he tore his meniscus. and he could no longer play in the championship series. A lot of people don't remember those things. And after he tore that meniscus and he was out of that tournament, we lost that size that we haven't had over the years. All of a sudden, we didn't have the 6'8" player in the middle going up against the 7-footer and the 6'9" I was referring to earlier. And their big men actually took over the series. So, yeah, nobody likes to come in last place, but at the same time, you're not aiming for second place. But AD has been very good to us, and he's made us a very competitive team.
Going back to what you said, you got second place again, and you lost to Ginebra again. Do you see that as something that's bad for a league where the same people can expect to see the same teams in the finals for the conference, or does it develop a rivalry that brings people to come back and watch to see if something's going to change?
Well, like I said, AD is pretty much the guy who makes us very, very competitive in the Governor's Cup. If you review the NBA, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
You have the State Warriors versus the Cleveland Cavaliers for quite a few years. And if you go back through time, the Boston Celtics versus the Los Angeles Lakers. Sometimes you have teams that go on runs for a certain period of time. It just happens that it's the time of the Ginebra team and the Meralco team in the Governor's Cup. If you look at the other leagues here in the PBA, in other words, we have an all-Filipino league, we have a commissioner's league where we have unlimited height, and then, of course, the Governor's Cup where we have 6'5" and under. San Miguel has dominated the all-Filipino. I mean, San Miguel Beer. I used to coach San Miguel Beer for, I believe, 12 years before, and they have dominated the all-Filipino. Well, we should not get down on San Miguel because they're dominating the all-Filipino. I mean, whether it's good for the league or not good for the league, this is their time. They have the talent. They put it together. Their players like to win. They like to play together. And I don't think it's boring because they're winning. I actually think it's exciting that they can continue to win year after year. The fact that they can keep their personalities in check and their egos in check just to win championships. So in a roundabout way, for me, that's exciting. A team that can stay together that long and continue to win and still have the hunger to play the games. And I think the fans appreciate that. You know, over my years, particularly here in the Philippines, the one thing I know about Filipino fans is they want to see you play hard. They want you to be consistent out there on the basketball court. They don't want you coming in playing lazy one game and being energetic the next. They want you to be consistent the way you play. So I think the fans will respect any type of matchup. We played Ginebra a couple of years ago, and we had 54,000 people show up to watch the game. So even though it's Ginebra versus Meralco, I think they're pretty excited. They're still pretty excited about us playing each other.
Wow. All right. So I wanted to morph that kind of into fandom here a little bit, team specific. And since you mentioned San Miguel Beer, that's a great place to start. Again, looking from the outside, looking in at the PBA, whenever I go to the Philippines, anybody I talk to would say their favorite team was San Miguel, right? I for sure, I wasn't running into, no disrespect, any Blackwater fans or Columbia fans, as far as I know, right? Nobody I ever asked would say that. And so is there a disparity in fandom that you know of between teams as they kind of go from average top to the bottom?
Well, you might have run into San Miguel fans, but the most popular team here by far is Ginebra San Miguel. They're the number one team as far as popularity is concerned. They have been forever, going way back to the 80s and the 90s. It started off with Sonny Jaworski, who was a great player before, who was a player coach just like myself back in the 80s. He started off that popularity. He actually stopped playing, ended up coaching the team, and that popularity just went right along with him. And it's continued over the years. I would rank probably San Miguel and Magnolia. Magnolia is another San Miguel team. I would probably rank them as probably somewhere as being tied for number 2 as far as popularity is concerned. And then the rest of us are under that. So you can see the San Miguel teams are very popular. And it's that way for a couple of reasons. One, they're very good. They're 3 of the most talented teams in the league. But at the same time, you know, all of the teams in the PBA, they represent products that are being sold um, in the league, and in the country. And because they represent those products are popular with the people. So it carries over to the team. The fact that the team is so popular because, like Ginebra San Miguel, that's a gin. People drink that gin. San Miguel beer, it's a beer. People drink San Miguel beer all the time. Magnolia milk, it's a milk. So it has a little bit to do with the fact that they have a lot of talented, very, very talented players who are very good. But at the same time, the products are also very popular here in the Philippines.
Okay, but that being said, you guys are sponsored by I don't know if this is true. Are you the biggest electricity company? You got to be close, right, Meralco?
I couldn't hear you. Could you ask the question again, please?
Yeah, I just said that. That being said, you guys are sponsored, or the Meralco Bolts are one of the biggest electricity companies, or the biggest, Meralco, correct?
That's correct. I work for Meralco. Meralco is the electric company, particularly for the Metro Manila area, Southern Luzon, they call it. And the difference is Meralco is not a product. In other words, you don't drink Meralco. It's not a beer. It's not a gin. Actually, you're paying Meralco for your electricity. But at the same time, Meralco is a name that's been around for a long, long time. You know, Meralco has been supplying the energy to this area of the country for before I came, way before I came. So to the Philippines. And Meralco, while it doesn't have a product to sell, it's become very popular because of the fact that, you know, you actually are dealing with them on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, as far as your electricity is concerned.
So just a couple more things I want to quick hit here. Getting back to fans and that idea of fandom. If you had to kind of give me a ballpark average on a regular like weekday, if you were playing somebody towards maybe the bottom of the barrel for that conference, how many people do you think you'd expect to come in to watch that game?
Yes, it depends on who you're playing.
Yeah.
And it depends on what time of the season it is. Things have changed a little bit. When I first arrived in the Philippines, the crowds were probably a little bit bigger, mainly because we didn't have social media. You couldn't watch the games on your computer. You couldn't watch the games on your cell phones. It was a lot different then than it is now. Basically, you could watch it on either TV or you watched it in person. You had to go to the game. So there were a lot of times where you could arrive, excuse me, you could arrive to the arena. One second, please.
Go ahead.
You could arrive to the arena a couple of hours early before the game, and you know the upper area would be full already, or there'd be people that's piling into the arena because they wanted to get the good seats. Because the general admission, there's no set seats there. You first come, first serve. It's only the lower level and the special ring sides where you actually have assigned seats. So things have changed because because of social media, because of all the technology and you being able to watch the games on other medias as far as how you can look at the game. But at the same time, I would say Ginebra would be the most popular team in the league. They're going to get the best crowds. If you're playing them, you can expect probably, you know, on a elimination round game, probably 1,000, 10,000 people to attend the game. If you play them in the playoffs, it's going to be full. It's going to be full packed most of the time. Like I said, when we played them in the championship series a couple years ago, we actually played them in the Araneta Coliseum and the Mall of Asia Arena. Both of those arenas seat about 17,000 people. And we were able to pack the place every night.
Wow.
So the commissioner decided to move the games to the Philippine Arena. Now the Philippine Arena seats 55,000 people. And that's how many people showed up for our game.
Wow.
We had 54,000+ people show up at the game to watch the championship game 7 of Ginebra and versus Meralco. So the people still come out and support the games. But to be quite honest and frank with you, if it's Meralco playing Blackwater or Meralco playing Colombian, the crowds aren't going to be that great. And And a lot of times what the PBA commissioner will do is he'll put that as the first game, and then he'll put a more popular team as the second game to make sure that the fans come in and watch the game. So what I can tell you is there are other ways of watching the PBA now. It's not like before, and you can actually watch it all over the place. I mean, every restaurant has a big screen where you can watch the games on the screen. So we still get the crowds, maybe not as much as we used to, but if Ginebra is playing, or we have what we call the Manila Classic, or they call it the Classical, the Manila Classical, and it's when the Magnolia team plays against San Miguel, or Magnolia team plays against Ginebra. I mean, that means that two of the San Miguel teams are fighting each other. That's really when the crowds are really, really big. So it really depends on who's playing on that particular night.
We do a podcast, and we've had a couple of episodes with agents who have specifically discussed some problems they've had, without giving names of their clients, but issues with clients that they've had not realizing or not putting the pieces together that when you go to play overseas, you're a professional, you're not on vacation, you need to perform and perform really well, or really right away, but also off the court, you need to be a professional. Now, obviously, not to put him in the spotlight, but Alan Durham is obviously doing something right in all those facets if he continues to be invited back. Again, without any names, what can you speak of from your experience, maybe seeing that in the past, players coming over, not really realizing what it means to be an import in a league like the PBA?
Well, I can just speak from experience because I was an import here in the Philippines for 10 years. And I kept coming back year after year, basically because of performance. And I think it has to be really clarified in the contract before you send a player to the Philippines. The Philippines is probably one of the best places for imports, we call them imports here in the Philippines, for imports to play overseas. And I say that for this reason. Whatever was promised you, you will receive. I hear so many stories about people going over to Europe and other places, and they get there, they don't get the money that they were told they were going to receive, and they end up having to come home with much less than they said they were going to receive, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the Philippines does not try to fool you. First of all, the contracts, particularly if you're coming here for the first time, it's not guaranteed. It's not a guaranteed contract. You have to come here and perform. If you don't perform well, then of course they'll replace you with somebody else. So it's not a situation where you think you are coming here to play, and then all of a sudden you think you don't have to play, or you're not playing well, and then you're gonna stay here the entire time. There's nothing in your contract that says that. Only players like myself, or Billy Ray Bates, or some of the guys who Sean Chambers, or Bobby Ray Parks, or Alan Durham can ask for guaranteed contracts because they've already shown that they have performed well here. So the companies that they're dealing with might be ready to go that extra mile to give them a guaranteed contract. But most of the players come here, they don't have guaranteed contracts. So yeah, you got to perform right away. There's no question about that. I mean, you know, teams will be patient with you in the beginning, but if you've gone 2 or 3 games and you haven't shown the ability to match up with the other imports, or you haven't shown the ability to win games, then you're probably going to be shipped home and replaced by another player. That's just the way it goes. That's very clear from the beginning, at least when we deal with imports, bringing them over. We never tell them that their money is guaranteed. What we probably will do is maybe guarantee them 1 month. In other words, give them the opportunity to show themselves without having the pressure that they're going to be sent home right away. 1 month could be 3, 4, 5 games. And of course, after that, you're just playing your contract already. Whatever you agreed to, that's what you're going to be paid. So I'm not sure about the negative situations of some of the agents with their players coming here to the Philippines, but I know for a fact that the majority of the players that come here, they love playing here for the simple fact that in a lot of ways, the Philippines is Americanized. Everybody speaks English here. Most of the TV shows are in English. You can watch HBO and Fox and everything else here in the Philippines. You can go to American restaurants and eat American food anytime you want. So a lot of the players love playing here because of that. There's a lot of countries. I played in South America before I came to the Philippines. Before I arrived in the Philippines, I played in Venezuela, and nobody spoke English. I mean, I couldn't communicate with anybody. I wasn't in Colombia. I was in Valencia, Venezuela, where a lot of people didn't really speak English. So basically, I was there, but I was having problems communicating with people. That you don't have that problem in the Philippines, here in the Philippines. So my experience is a lot of players love playing here, but at the same time, you have to be well aware of what you're agreeing to before you come over, because if you don't play well, you certainly will be sent home.
And actually, like I said, we've done podcasts, and one of them we had recently was with Josh Boone, who openly kind of talked about when he came over. And
Wait for it to go. Yes.
yeah, yeah, and it was a short run, and he just talked about that adjustment period can be so fast that and his story was longer, but that was right. Just to kind of add on to what you
Josh
were saying.
Boone came in with a lot of expectations because he was an NBA player.
Uh-huh.
I know he's had a lot of success in Australia recently.
Oh yeah.
He played very, very well there. And you have to understand now, San Miguel's been winning for all, they're the winningest team in the league. I even have 9 championships with them. 10 if you count the fact that I won one as just a player. So they've been winning all these years. And Josh Boone was supposed to be their savior because he had a reputation coming in, and they didn't fare very well when he came in. So because they have an expectation of winning, if you come in, they're expecting you to win. I mean, they're one of the winningest teams ever in the history. They are the winningest team in the history of the league. So there are a lot of expectations that come along with that. And I remember that quite clearly because I was still coaching then, and he didn't fare too well. And yeah, I think he was replaced. Correct.
So, Coach, like I said, I've met Alan before. He's a very humble guy, and get the sense with you as well. But when you step out in public, just to give people an idea, do people recognize you right away, recognize an Alan Durham right away, a Justin Brownlee right away?
Well, definitely. They would recognize Justin Brownlee and Alan Durham immediately. The players here, they're out on TV 2-3 times a week. A lot of people follow the games, so they are aware of guys who are as good as Justin Brownlee and Alan Durham. These are 2 of the best imports ever to play in the PBA ever in its history. So they would be recognized. I'm a little bit different because I've been here much longer. So I probably could go to Ilocos Norte, which is the top of the Philippines, all the way down to General Santos City, which is the bottom of the Philippines, and people would probably recognize me because of the fact that I've been involved in the basketball scene for many, many years, and I've had success here. I've had my failures, but I've had a lot of success too. So yeah, I can go pretty much anywhere, and people will know the PBA and they'll know Norman Black. Yes.
So, players listening and kind of getting an idea of all these different places they could potentially play. Some of the things people have sent us, they want to hear about for some of these leagues that they're just not aware of is one of them is safety. Is safety something maybe overblown, something that doesn't need to be concerned about as an athlete, or how can you speak on safety for imports when they come over?
Well, no matter where you live, you have to know how to move. I mean, hey, what about safety in the United States? We're going through a lot of things right now.
Crazy time to ask that question, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I've had my experiences in the States too with the police, where you're on edge because of the racial profiling that goes, particularly when you're in a car. So safety is always a concern, no matter where you are. It's how you move. You don't go to places that you should not be there. You take care of your business. If your business is going to practice, going home, going to games, going home, and basically just staying away from places where there may be trouble, then you do those things. I mean, no matter what country you're coaching in or playing in, you have to take that type of outlook as far as how you handle yourself. I've never had any problems in the Philippines with safety. But of course, I'm not going to areas where I shouldn't be. I'm in places where I probably should be. But I was asked this question the other day because of the racial tensions that are existing in the United States right now. And I was asked the question, have I ever had that problem in the PBA, or the Philippine Basketball Association? And to be quite honest with you, other than being called names by the fans sometimes when I was a player, no, I have not. I have never had any racial tensions here in the Philippines, or in the PBA for that matter. So as far as I'm concerned, whenever you hear something about the Philippines in the United States, particularly if it's on CNN or some of the other broadcasts, it's always something negative. I mean, it's never something positive. It's always, this happened in the Philippines, this happened in the Philippines. Well, a lot of times those are isolated incidents. It's not something that's happening every single day. It's just like the United States. Things happen, you report on it, but it's not something that's happening all the time. So I've never had any concern with safety here in the Philippines. I've always felt safe. I've never had any type of run-in or incident where my life was in trouble or anything like that. Once again, you need to know how to move. You need to be in the places you should be and stay away from the places you shouldn't be, because no matter what country you're in, you can always find trouble. It's always waiting for you out there if you really want to find it.
Okay, Coach, I got two more for you. You mentioned the Philams in the United States that could potentially continue their career, specifically playing in the Philippines and the PBA. How would they, if they're listening to this going, really how? What would be their first step into trying to make that happen?
Well, there are procedures, there are rules and regulations for Philams to be able, not just Philams, Phil anything. They could be Phil Europeans, could be from anywhere, Phil Australians. One of the major things that stand out in my mind is the fact that, their parents would have had to have been Filipinos when they were born. That's the most important thing. One of them has to be a Filipino. In other words, both your parents could not have transferred their citizenship to being American and then you were born. That would kind of nullify the fact that you're a Philam because your parents were both Americans. Now you can check on that, but I believe that's true. That's normally what holds back a lot of the Philams from playing here in the Philippines. But if one of their parents was a Filipino when they were born, then they're eligible to play here, pretty much. And they just have to make sure that they get an agent here in the Philippines who knows the law and knows the rules of the PBA, so that they can take care of whatever papers they need to work out. Now, that's a little bit different for playing for the national team. Philams or Phil whatever who want to play for the national team, they should have been Filipinos by the age of 16. They should have been carrying a Filipino passport by the age of 16 for them to be eligible according to FIBA rules. So it's a little bit different. The rules are different for if you want to play for the Philippine national team than it is if you want to play in the PBA. In the PBA, your parents just had to have been Filipinos when you were born. If you want to play for the national team, then you should have had a Filipino passport by the time you turned 16 to be eligible by FIBA rules. So the rules vary for different qualifications and different eligibilities, but at the same time, there are opportunities here. There are a lot of Philams playing in the league, and there have been a lot of Philams who have played in the PBA over the years, even back when I played back in the 80s.
All right, so finally then, I want to spin it just a little bit and just ask you as a coach in the PBA, how does a coach in the PBA view, or through what lens do you look at the MPBL?
Well, my son just played in the MPBL. He'll be playing for me this year for Meralco. I chose him in the second round in the draft, the draft that took place last December. The MPBL is different. The MPBL is actually being run by former PBA players. Guys like Kenneth Duremdis, who was a great PBA player, Rudy Distrito, Zaldi Lubick. These guys were actually PBA players before. And what the MPBL has done is it's given a lot of, the PBA is just like the NBA. It gives a lot of people employment, players, coaches, personnel who support the team, management. who have been involved in basketball for a lot of years. Okay, I mean, I started playing when I was in high school. All right, now I'm still coaching. You know, it employs a lot of people like myself. But at the same time, there are a lot of people in the Philippines, particularly former players, former coaches, who are not in the PBA. So what the MPBL has done is it's given a lot of jobs to people who you might have said, wow, I didn't know where he was. And now he's coaching the MPBL. Well, I didn't know where that player was because I coached in college at Ateneo for 10 years. So a lot of the players who are playing right now, I actually coached against in college because I stopped coaching in college in 2012. And I didn't know where that player went. Oh, he's in the MPBL. So the MPBL has actually, you know, you have to thank Manny Pacquiao for the fact that he's given a lot of people jobs. A lot of people that you didn't know where they were. They're either playing in the MPBL or they're coaching in the MPBL or they're running teams in the MPBL. And I think that's a great thing. I mean, I like to see guys who can continue to play. They love playing basketball. They're normally just playing in side leagues, but now they actually have a league to play in where they're actually being paid just like a professional player. And the games are being handled very professionally. So I know it's competition for the PBA, so I can't really say too much about it, too much praise for it because the fact that I am in the PBA. But at the same time, I think it's been good for the country. I think it's been good for those basketball players and coaches who continue to have jobs because of the MPBL, and I think it's a positive thing.
Do you at all, as I kind of wrap up here, MPBL does based on location and city, and like we talked about earlier, PBA is um, tied to a company and not a location. Uh, how do you see those two differences affecting the two leagues in any way?
Well, because like I said, Aaron, my son, played there for the Quezon City team, and then he played for Zamboanga. Because of that, I attended a lot of games. And what I found was that, like I attended a game in Caloocan once, and it's almost like the entire neighborhood is at the game. Of course, the gyms aren't that big. The gyms are basically a lot of times tied in with the city hall of that particular city. They're connected to the city hall, so the gyms may seat about 3,000 people, maybe 3,005, somewhere around there. But at the same time, by the time that the home team gets on the court to play, which is normally around 9 p.m., by the time they get on the court to play, I mean, you're looking around and you just see the father, the mother, the three kids, everybody in the household is there. So anybody from Caloocan is going to attend that game. So in a lot of ways, it's a community league in the fact that it brings out the community to support the home team on that particular night. The PBA, we play our games in Mall of Asia, which is a very nice arena. The Araneta Coliseum, which is the Thrill in Manila, if you remember that, with Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. It's been renovated. It's a very beautiful arena also. So we play our games in bigger arenas, and people basically have to use public transportation or their own transportation to get to our games. And the advantage the PBA has is, in fairness, I'm not trying to put the MPBL down, is that the PBA has the best players. They have the top players in the country. They have the national team players. So of course, that's going to draw a lot of attention. It's going to have people come out and watch the games because you're watching the best basketball. It's like watching the NBA compared to college. You know, basically that's what it comes down to. If you get a chance to watch LeBron James, you're going to watch LeBron James over a guy who's playing in college. It's just the way it is. So that's the built-in advantage that the PBA has, the fact that they have the best players. And even though they don't support just one specific or attract one specific neighborhood or city, they attract the entire Metro Manila area. Everybody comes out and supports the league because it's the best entertainment you're going to find as far as basketball is concerned. So two different leagues. One I think is more community-based. The other one is the entire Metro Manila area supports the PBA. So, and it's not just the Metro Manila area because we do a lot of road games too. We go all over the country. We go to the big cities around the country, and normally we have great crowds whenever we travel. So The PBA is pretty much an institution here. It's something that's been around since 1975. I had the opportunity and the pleasure of being part of that in the 80s as a player. And wow, I mean, I won't say that the PBA players are as popular as actors and actresses, but they're close. They're very close.
Hang on one second, coach. Hang on here. Here. Okay. Well, coach, thank you. I will say though, we might have an issue next time in the Philippines. We might have to take care of this. I got jerseys from almost everybody except the Bolts. So I'm thinking the next time we're over there, I'm gonna need to
All the
take.
NFL teams there.
Yeah, I got everybody in here. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm even allowed to show this up here while interviewing you. I hope that's not rude in any way. If I had a Bolt, I would hold that one up. Let's just put it that way.
Well, we'll get you one.
Thank you, Coach, for joining me and all of us here for this episode.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be able to talk to you and share a little bit about the PBA. Obviously, it's not that much time, so there's a lot more to share, but at the same time, I'm happy to talk to you.
Awesome.